will not be able to kind of express that, but we're going to try to speak for him in this case. From jockjournal.com, there's a article there that says, "Taking a Closer Look at NFL Concussions" by Richard Pyle. So, okay, we spoke a little bit about this and how things have begun to build for this concussion sort of movie that's been going on. One of the things that the NFL decided that they were going to do is that they decided that this, and I love the fact that they're doing it, but they decided that they're not going to interfere with the Concussion movie. However, Concussion, in an attempt, I think, to actually screw with the NFL and try to drag them out into a media battle, I believe they've gone ahead and put real NFL footage into their commercials that they're showing on the on TV, which violates all the things that the NFL's already stood for and already said about, using their likeness, their name, their logos. Heck, even Jock Journal had its own issues regarding this. We do actually have him on available now, so I'm going to bring him into the call. Are you there, Richard?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Hey, buddy.
Richard Pyle of jockjournal.com. He's here with us today. He wrote this article on taking a closer look at NFL concussions, and today we started seeing commercials from Concussion actually have real NFL footage. I believe that it's nothing more than a ploy to try to goad the NFL into saying cease or desist so they can start a media battle and draw more attention to their Concussion movie already with oh my God, it's a conspiracy. The NFL's trying to cover this sort of thing up. See, they don't want you to see such and such, bygones, whatever. However, I could just be reading in between the lines too much, but that's kind of what I'm sensing here. Tell me what you've seen regarding this Concussion movie, Mr. Pyle, and kind of step us through this process.
Well, when I saw the previews for the concussion policy, or the Concussion movie, I'm sorry, I was intrigued by it because back when I was in spring college, whatever, I had to do a 5-page research paper on it, so I dug up plenty of material. And you're right, I think it's more or less they're trying to put the NFL in this huge spotlight. But what the story, in my article, what the story doesn't tell is, they are trying their best to protect player safety. Before the new rule that was installed, it was basically they had spotters up in the stands. Everybody knew about the spotters up in the press box. They've got the doctors on the field to evaluate them. But I think this year they've gone as far as to actually stopping the game entirely, which is a good thing because how they'll say, okay, you got to go out because of what's going on. They stop the game completely, and you see the doctors going on the field. Last year, you didn't see that at all. So that's one of the brighter spots that I saw with how they're trying to evaluate these players. The other thing was, that what I learned when writing the paper that eventually turned into what the article was published a couple of hours ago was there was a study done by, I think the guy's name was Vijay Gupta. He was a biochemical engineer, and he put in a polymer that tested the impact of the helmets through football. But the only problem was that I saw that kind of deteriorated the article, the research a bit. It was promising because I think 70% of the helmets it tested improved through the players, but it didn't say if it was peewee football, high school football, middle school football. Because as you know, as boys grow to men, the aggression gets a little bit harder. The last part of the article really kind of hits home because my wife actually was the one that turned me on to Dr. Amen. He is like one of the best psychiatrists and does brain research in the United States. And I don't know if you guys remember, a few years ago, they tested the brains of all these deceased NFL players, and I think the results were shocking. That I think it was like anywhere from 80 to 90% of these guys had CTE, which it's basically what leads to the symptoms are so severe. You see Bernie Kosar walking around like he's drunk on TV, and he's even been a local staple point for that. But Dr. Edelman has worked hand in hand with Bob Costas in the NFL to improve player safety. So while it's not 100% effective of what they're doing, at least somebody out there cares. And this concussion movie kind of bothers me because they're always trying to degrade the NFL, like, oh, this is the NFL's fault. No, the NFL is doing their job to try and prevent this. But, I don't know if you guys remember, I'm going to ask you this quick question about the Ben Roethlisberger a few weeks ago in Seattle where, he thought he got his bell rung and he pulled himself out of games.
Mm-hmm.
Or he pulled himself out of the game and went to the sideline and said, I think I'm a little concussed. I'm pulling myself out. Some of the veterans may do that, but some of these younger kids, they're in it. This is all they know. They went to college, they get degrees, and I think Andrew Luck graduated with a degree in communications. And it's like, this is all, the football is all they know. This is all they were raised to do. And it's sad that it happens, but they know the risks when they take the field. But like I say, it's just great that somebody out there cares about player safety.
Yeah, Richard, let me ask you. You said they put a new polymer in the helmets. It's 2015.
Yes.
How long do you think until we come up with something that eradicates concussions? Or is this a problem we're going to have to deal with forever?
It's probably a problem you're going to have to deal with forever because you've seen the players, even when they don't get hit on the head, the impact of the ground, they hit the turf, their helmets or their heads bounce off the turf. I mean, it's a violent sport. It's probably, and you can even go on to say as far as football's not the only one with a concussion issue. Look at Pittsburgh Penguins, the star, Crosby, whatever his name is. He was out almost a year because of concussion issues, and he had, the Penguins literally had him out almost an entire season due to severe concussions. Boxers, baseball players now have a concussion protocol. As I was watching the playoffs between the Rangers and Royals, somebody got hit in the head, and they had somebody on the sideline testing him. So this is not really, in my opinion, an NFL issue. This is a sports-wide issue, and I understand that they're trying their best to prevent it, but I don't think they can. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. You got people out buying tickets, merchandise. They're paying for the sports packages. They're making their money. So, I think it's improved over the years, but I don't know that if in our lifetime we're ever going to see it completely erased.
No, I tend to agree. I actually served with somebody once that had a traumatic brain injury due to an IED exploding next to him, and every time he sneezed for literally like 4 months later, he gave himself a new concussion because the fibers in his brain weren't connecting the same way, and it was a long process for him to come back to normal. In fact, he was actually physically hospitalized in an asylum for some time because of his aggression due to it. But I'm seeing on your article here, it says that NFL players were autopsied, deceased ones, of course, and they found that over 80% of them had, some sort of CTE in relation to multiple concussions. That's an alarming amount. It is. Facts and figures will lie, but how did they come to decide who was going to be taking part in this study? And are these stats really valid, or was it kind of a biased result trying to aim that direction?
Are you talking about the actual study itself?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, Dr. Edelman, I know for a fact, was the one that performed the autopsies on there and the brain scans of it. So I think it's a pretty legitimate stat itself. As far as how they went ahead and I think they had to. If I'm not mistaken, when I read the research on it, it was the family members had to agree of the deceased, because they were concerned of their dad's health, their husband's health, life after football. I mean, if you think about it this way, Chris Borland a few years ago played one season in the NFL. He just suddenly retired out of fear for his brain and his health. So, I mean, I can understand, the numbers may not look like it, but this was a legitimate study. I mean, it was, I think I saw this on PBS or the PBS website. Jason Breslow awesome article. I can probably link you guys to it so you guys can see what the study showed. He's even got the stat lines and everything. But I just couldn't write everything into one article of all the research that I had to do for this essay itself. But I think it was pretty close. But I think it was pretty much the family members had to sign off to allow them to do this.
Okay, Richard, I have one more question here. You said at one point you know that the movie kind of makes it look like it's the NFL's fault, and I almost believe it. I don't want to say the NFL is causing concussions, but don't you think the NFL has some liability? I mean, I personally don't see the owners, billionaires, caring very much about the safety of their players unless they have to. So this kind of falls right in line with some of the things that we've seen from the owners. Is it feasible to think the owners knew about this prior and didn't do anything about it because they don't care about player safety that much? It's just that they're just money to them.
That's a valid question, and if I have my belief on it, I think they do care to an extent because it's hard to say if it's based on the player itself or their franchise itself. I'm wondering. I think you're looking at it as each individual owner may see this a little bit differently. They were blasting Ron Rivera over Cam Newton's concussion, and the Panthers just kind of were like, no, you don't need to tell me my dignity or whatever he said about, I don't care about Cam Newton or something like that. So I think they care to an extent, but in a sense, this is the NFL and it's about selling tickets. It's about putting fans in the stands. But, if you look at the underlining of it all, I personally have not yet seen the film, so I would have to watch the film to see where the movie's actually gearing towards. And I'm not really a huge Will Smith fan, honestly. I don't care for a lot of his movies, but this one kind of it's close to home with me doing the research on this whole thing that I had to construct this whole paper. But I think that's a fair question that, somebody needs to ask the owners what they feel because I don't see the owners actually speaking out. I really don't see the NFL responding to the movie in general just yet. So maybe time will tell on that one.
Wow. Great stuff, Richard. You really nailed this on the head, and you did a bunch of research for this, and it's an awesome article. Where can people go and check that article out at?
It's at jockjournal.com, and it's NFL, a closer look at NFL concussions, and written by myself, Richard Pyle. Hey, guys, thanks for having me. I go back in here and do the family thing.
Well, thanks for taking time out of that to join us, Richard, and have a great night. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Richard. Take care, and we're off to break.
Finally, can we take a moment and stop listening to these idiots long enough to get the Cars for Kids jungle stuck in my head?
Cars for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Also on the web at carsforkids.com. That's Cars with a K. We're a recognized 501c3 charity organization, so you'll receive a maximum tax deduction. What's more, you'll receive a free vacation voucher of 3 days and 2 nights.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
I was just messing with Javi. Oh, am I on? Hi, guys. This is Matt with Nash and Matt's Late Night NFL Talk. I wanted to talk to you about Christmas gifts. I don't know about you, but I am horrible at getting Christmas gifts for my wife. I am not one of those super attentive husbands that remembers what she said 6 months ago out at that little quaint place when we were walking, in some random town, and she said, "Oh, I wanted a bench like that." I'm not that guy. I think about what she wants right now, 2 weeks before Christmas, and typically I come up with very generic things. So this year I was saved. I met Robin Denio, and she's a skincare consultant with the doctors at Creative Proactive. They have a new